Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my Atelier Resleriana mechanics guide. This part will be based around synthesis mechanics. So in the last video we learned about traits, which traits are good. Now I will be teaching you how to apply that knowledge to synthesis to make the best items, get the best outcomes, get the best gear for your characters. Even if you think you know a lot about the synthesis in this game, I recommend sticking around and watching. You still might learn something. I'm going to try and go into some of the math and more niche mechanics as well in this video. There is, of course, still a lot we don't know about synthesis because the rates are obfuscated. Only the developers know how all the calculations work behind the scenes. It's all server-sided. But there are a lot of things we do know as well, and I can, sort of tell you our best theories on how things work and sort of what values, what numbers, what bonuses are worth chasing and what's not. So let's just get right into it. All right, so synthesis screen. First thing you do when you get here, you select a recipe. That's pretty straightforward. Recipes require mana and materials. Mana is pretty abundant. It does recharge at a rate of 1 per 5 hours. You need 1 mana for every synthesis. This never changes. It's never more. It's never less. I do recommend if you just want to make items, it's pretty cheap to buy mana with gems. You can easily buy mana. They're 10 gems a piece. It's not really a bad deal. If you just want to play the game, it's a pretty, it's a pretty reasonable cost. Like, I buy mana all the time. If I want to make things like, if I want to make something like right now, I don't worry about it. Totally fine. Other than that, the materials, event materials come from events. They will stay around after the event. However, once the event ends, like this is an event material from the current event, you cannot obtain this material anymore. So right now I can synthesize, 240 of more of these swords with all the event materials I have. But once the event is gone, that's it. Once I exhaust all the materials, they're gone until the event reruns, which so far we haven't had any reruns yet. However, for normal items that are, in the basic recipe books, main story, extra recipe books, you can always farm the materials. If you don't have enough materials, just click on the material. It'll take you to, what score battle or what dungeon you need to clear. So when you synthesize a recipe, it has a rarity, right? When you synthesize an item. So you can see that these are purple or SSR items, these are SR items, and these are normal item or rare items. So most of what you'll be synthesizing is SSR. When you synthesize an SSR or purple item, it has a chance to give you the SR version or orange version of that item. For most items, the rate of getting an SR is about 3 to 2, so you'll get 2 SSRs for every 3 SRs you get, so the SRs are slightly more common. For recipes from the extra recipe book, most of these are about 9 to 1, so 9 SRs for every 1 SSR. So if you're making something like Charade Lumance and wondering why it's all orange, that's why. The rates are different per item. Most items are pretty even, like that 3 to 2, like I said, but some of the extra recipes, you will mostly get orange here. So if that's happening to you, it's not bad luck. That is just the way it is. But yeah, event recipes all have better SSR rates generally, so that's fine. The other thing before you synthesize an item is you have these support characters here. There are a lot of conspiracy theories about these characters, that they have an effect on synthesis, that raising them, will be beneficial to your synthesis. None of that is true as far as we can tell. Like, I am 99% certain these are just there for aesthetic purposes. They don't matter at all for the synthesis outcome. You don't need to worry about these characters. They are just there so that when you synthesize, they show up and they look cute, right? The colors aren't even consistent. Like, yeah, they can supply completely different colors to different items. There's no consistency there. The colors are not decided by the support characters. They are tied to the item itself. All right, so now that we have selected the item, what is the actual synthesis process? And that is basically, selecting 2 characters and a material to carry out the synthesis. So you start with your base item, It has 3 colors. These are the colors that will link to the left side of the character you choose. So say we choose Val here because she has blue on the left and the item has blue, it'll link up. If we were to choose a character that doesn't match, say Marion here, purple on the left side, it won't have a link. You can still do this, and I will go into why it might be beneficial in a bit. However, it is usually not a good idea. It is usually better to have the links. But there are some edge cases where you might want to do a setup where they are not linked, but it's not common. However, it is still possible to do so. So we'll just select Valeria here. Color matches up. And basically what happens is when you select a character, they add their trait to the pool up here. So this is your trait pool at the top. So Valeria has a slash damage boost trait. That is the trait that she gives to equipment, right? You can see here, if you long hold on a character, you can see the traits they give. These 2 go to usable items, and then this one goes to equipment items. So these 2 are for battle items, this one's for equipment items. So she will always give the same trait to equipment items, no matter what. You can also see that the character has a high level trait chance up effect. This is known as the gift bonus. I will go into what this means a little later. It's a bit complicated. But yes, you can check that here if you want to know what a character's gift bonus is. Valeria's current gift bonus is 45%. Every character has a normalized gift bonus chance. It's scaled by a few other factors. But yeah, I'll go more in detail on this part of the synthesis later. So yeah, Valeria has slash damage boost. We choose her. If you want to see characters' traits more easily, you can press this button here. It will expand it out so you can see all of the traits very easily, but it also takes longer to scroll through. You also have some filters over here. You can filter by traits the characters have, or you can filter by their colors. Very convenient. But anyways, we start with Valeria. Next, I will be choosing Corneria because she has green on the left side that links up to Valeria. All of the characters that can link will get pushed forward to the front when you're making something. So you can see how all of these characters here have green on the left side. The game reorders them for you. It's very nice. We choose Corneria. Corneria is a pretty common choice for making equipment because she gives the skill power up trait. If you watched the last video, you would know this is the best damage trait in the game right now. So yeah, skill power up, very good option. And then for materials, materials all give, 2 traits. You can only choose a material that matches the color of the character of the right side of the character you put in second. So you can see that these are all blue materials here. If I were to swap to, say, Meru, it would only give me red materials. So you actually can't put in a material that doesn't match. So the right side of your second character is actually very important if you want to do specific materials. Say you want to use like Unknown Augite because it has a enhanced damage buff A on it. It's a very good supporter material. Then you would need a character that has blue on the right side to use that material, period. But for this synthesis, we're just going to go ahead and put in Quake Crystal. This is a pretty standard material for this to link to Corneria because it also gives the skill power up trait. There is also the all recovery boost trait on it, which is useless for making damage gear, but you just kind of have to deal with it. What happens most of the time is when you're making gear, the material you choose will only have 1 good trait on it. Most materials do not have 2 good traits on them. So you just kind of have to deal with the second trait here being bad. Yeah, and now that we have, chosen everything, we can just go ahead and start the synthesis. And we will get a, little synthesis animation. The cauldron will glow, and we can just skip through it. There are a number of special animations, such as this one where the cauldron turns orange, and we get a nice little jingle, impressive sounding jingle. This is the same sort of like animation. Sometimes when you meet a certain condition, that special animation will play. There are a number of them. such as the characters falling down or the giant purple cauldron explosion. You may have seen them while doing your own synthesis. All of these special animations mean the same thing, and they mean that you got they mean that you got an item at the highest rarity, so in this case SSR, with a total trait level of 6 or higher. So we got a level 4 plus a level 2 trait, that's level 6, and that's enough to trigger the special animation, the special jingle, and all of them mean the same thing. None of them mean anything more than another, so that's all that means. You will get very tired of seeing those eventually. So now that we've made the items, you may be wondering, how does it pick the traits? How does it pick their levels? And this is the real important part of optimizing synthesis, right? This is where a little bit of knowledge and skill comes into play for determining, how you should make specific items. Because you can see that all 3 of these have different combinations of traits, like this one chose skill power twice, this one chose slash damage and skill power, and this one chose slash damage and all recovery boost. And those are all traits that we had in our pool from picking characters. And yeah, I'll just sort of go in on explaining how those are selected. Also, very conveniently, you can press this previous setup button to pick the last setup that you synthesized with for the specific item. Very convenient. You don't have to reselect everything again. But yeah, so how are the traits picked? And I can say with certainty that traits are completely unweighted. So let me just try to explain this real quick. I'll bring up MS Paint and hopefully I can explain this properly. But basically you have, let me get a better screenshot real quick. Let's let that stop scrolling. Okay. All right. So we have these 4 traits. And it will pick 2 of them, all equal weight, so all the same chances. So let's say we want skill power up and skill power up on the same item. What are the chances of that with this trait pool? And that's what I'm going to be explaining. So let's say it picks the slash damage boost first, right? For the first trait. Now, because it already picked slash damage boost, that means it can't pick it again. 1 second. There we go. The trait cannot be picked again. It can only be picked once. So for the second trait, it has to pick one of the ones left over, one of these 3, right? So that means there will be 3 combinations total. It'll have a combination with this skill power up, right? It'll have a combination with this skill power up, and it'll have a combination with the all recovery boost as well. So far we have 3 valid combinations, right? And then, so we go on to the second trait, this skill power up. So let's say it picks this one first. Then it can pick any of the other 3 traits. However, because we already have the combo with slash damage and we don't care about the order, we're going to cancel this one out because it would be redundant. So it can be a combination with this skill power up. So skill power up, which is what we're going for, or a combination with the all recovery boost, right? So let me just get these real quick. So we are up to, 5 combinations now. And the last combination, there is only one more, would be this skill power up with the all recovery boost. So we end up with a total of 6 unique combinations. Now, with this trait setup, because 2 of our traits are the same, they don't look unique, but this would be skill power from here, from Corneria, and this one would be skill power from the Quake Crystal, so they are unique combinations. And what you can see here is that if we are only going for skill power up with skill power up, our chances of hitting are 1 in 6 because there is 1 valid combination here. There are 6 total unique options, but only 1 of them work for us. Now, if we're okay with the slash damage boost, then we also get this combination and this combination, right? So we have a total of 3 out of 6, or a 50% chance. So if you if there's only 2 traits you want in the pool, the chance of getting them together on any given item is 1 in 6, or about 17%. So, you know, if you are synthesizing with this combination, basically you will need to see an item with 2 level 5 traits 6 times on average before you get, you know, double skill power 5. Pretty bad odds, right? And because of that, that's why the best thing you can do to improving your odds of making good gear is by improving your trait pool. And this is why Meru is so strong. I don't have her, but she also gives single target attack power, which is another skill power trait that's very good. So you can imagine that, you know, if that was here instead, we would have 3 skill power traits, so 3 valid combos out of 6. And that's triple the odds, right? 3 out of 6 is 3 times the 1 in 6 odds we have currently, which means, let's say that getting a level 10 skill power item, level 10 being 2 level 5 skill power traits, so total level 10. Let's say that the odds of that are somewhere in the ballpark of 1 in 1200 to 1 in 1500, right? Tripling your odds from 1 in 1200 brings it down to 1 in 400. Like, huge difference, right? Every 400 items you'll get what you're looking for instead of every 1200 items. 1200 items is a lot of items, right? So yeah, the most important thing you can do is getting a better trait pool. Another thing I would like to illustrate is that you can see there are 6 combinations here, and the all recovery boost appears 3 times. You know, we have it here, we have it here, we have it here. Basically, every single trait has a 50% chance of appearing on any given item, right? So you will see this trait 50% of the time. And that applies to every single trait, right? Like, you can see the slash damage boost 3 times. You can see skill power up 6 times, but that's because there are 2 of them. So yeah, that's basically how picking the traits works, and why you want multiple of the same trait in the pool if that is the trait what you're going for. You know, going from 2 skill power traits to 3 skill power traits in the pool is such a huge, you know, like chance bonus. Like, it just drastically improves your rates. And then other than that, I kind of glossed over this, but it's a very common question, so I will address it directly. Each trait can only be picked once. So if you only have the 1 skill power trait in the pool, you can only get 1 skill power trait in the final result. You do need to have it multiple times to see it twice, because if it picks this trait, it cannot pick it again. It can pick this one because it is a separate trait. It's the same name, but it is a separate trait in the pool, right? And yeah, that's basically how that works. I hope that made sense. And I guess now I will cover what happens when you synthesize, you know, with unlinked characters. So let's say we add Toturi here, who is unlinked, and then we add Corneria and Quake Crystal. So it's basically the exact same thing, except without Valeria, right? You can see that the trait here is grayed out because the color doesn't match, right? There's no link here. You can see the little light bar here showing that they're linked, but there's no link here, so the trait gets grayed out. And what this does, it doesn't remove the trait from the pool. If it did, that would drastically increase our odds of getting what we want, but it doesn't. It just replaces the trait with a dead trait. So what this means, it'll give you a warning when you start. Traits will be of common rarity when gift colors do not match that of the character. And let's see if we can get it to trigger in a synthesis. Doesn't look like we did. I'll go ahead and do another one just to show you exactly what it does. Alright, so when you get the common trait, you will get this failure animation from the cauldron, and you can see that you have common here. So having unlinked characters doesn't improve your trait selection odds at all. It just blocks the pool with this dead trait. However, if you don't care about the other character's trait, then, you know, this isn't really a downside, because that character's trait would have been dead anyways, right? Like, you didn't care about it in the first place, so having it unlinked, you know, it doesn't really matter, right? But as you get more characters, as we get more recipes with better like color combos at the start and whatever, you won't really be synthing with unlinked characters very often, because it is generally easy enough to have, you know, good traits in your pool, but it's something to keep in mind. All right, so now that I have covered all of that, I guess we can start talking about the gift bonus. And what exactly is the gift bonus? You know, I went over it a little bit earlier. When you look at, you know, the character in Synthesis, you can long press on them and see their gift bonus. My Vayne currently has 0%, so it's locked. My Valeria has 45. And what exactly does this mean? Well, it scales a value called the high level trait chance. And this value is very kind of ambiguous in what it does. We are not certain how it works yet, but I can tell you where it comes from, and it comes from player rank. So I'll just collect this to rank up and show you. When you rank up, you get high trait level chance, 0.5% on most levels, 1% on some, but basically at rank 26, you can see it went from plus 17% to plus 17.5%. And this is the value that the gift bonus is scaling. And from this point on, I'll sort of like give the disclaimer, we have no idea how this works. Straight up. No one has figured it out. We have some theories. I will tell you what our seemingly closest theory is at the moment, but, you know, take it with a grain of salt. No one knows how it works. The devs have not told us how it works, and no one has found a model that fits like all the trait data that we've managed to collect from synthesizing thousands and thousands and thousands of times on the JP server. So, you know, everyone's like super superstitious about this. One thing I can tell you though, with certainty, the high trait level chance is not worth chasing over better traits. The trait pool that I went over before, making your trait pool as good as possible for the best odds, is the most important thing you can do for your synthesis odds. This high trait level chance value, while it does have a positive effect, it is relatively minor. So, you know, it's definitely worth maximizing it, but it's not worth like fretting about. It's not worth going out of your way for. It's not worth like saving things for a higher player rank, you know, higher character stars, things like that. Like, max this out as much as you can reasonably when synthesizing, but don't worry about it. It is a relatively minor bonus, all things considered. It's not going to significantly increase your odds. It will increase them slightly. And I'll explain how we think it might work. Basically, we think that this is a base chance for an override on the item to give a level 4 or 5 trait. So what does that mean? Basically, every time you make an item, we think that this chance means there is a 17.5% chance that this bonus triggers on that item. And when it triggers, it will just upgrade one of the traits to level 4 or 5. Notice the important part there, one of the traits. This high trait level chance very likely can only trigger on one trait per item. It most likely cannot apply to both traits at once. And this is a big reason why it's a relatively minor bonus, because even if you hit the high trait level chance on one trait, you're still working with the normal rates for the other trait. So that's how we think this works. Now, the data is pretty inconclusive on it. It used to fit, that theory used to fit our synth data exactly like a few months ago. Nowadays, it's like fairly off as a predictor of traits, so it's pretty weird. But don't let anyone tell you that they know for sure what this does, because they don't. Only the devs know. They haven't told us. No one has figured out how it works. Just keep in mind that it is a bonus. It's for sure a positive bonus, but it's relatively minor. You're not going to be getting twice as many level 9, level 10 items off of this, no matter what, even once it's up into like the 60s, right? You're not going to be getting that, so keep that in mind. And what does the gift bonus have to do with this? So what we think is that the gift bonus scales this value so that this would be a flat percent value of the effect triggering, so 17%, and then the gift bonus scales that multiplicatively. So let's say a character gives 80% gift bonus, that would increase this value by 80%. So you would multiply this by 1.8, which should be somewhere around the low 30s. And, you know, if you have 2 of those characters with 80%, you would multiply it by 2.6, which would put it somewhere in the mid 40s. So yeah, that is how we think that works. And as far as the gift bonus itself, that scales that very likely scales that value, that comes from 2 things. It comes from awakening your character, so increasing their star level. Your gift bonus will get enhanced here by 60. It's like 80% at max star level. And then it also comes from the grow board. So let's just unlock her to 5 real quick so I can show it. You will get a synthesis core at grow board levels like 1, 3, and 6. And that will also affect the gift bonus. It's the same thing, right? So you get those as well. So you do want to make sure when synthesizing that the characters you're synthesizing with are at least rank 6 for the synthesis core, grow board 6 for the synthesis core, but it's also not a huge deal. It just helps a little bit. I will say also that the gift bonus only applies to characters that you select in the synthesis itself. It's not just an account-wide bonus. You know, when you make an item, that's the gift bonus that applies, the character you choose, right? You know, it'll say here, and then her gift bonus applies. You won't be getting gift bonus from any of the other characters. You'll get gift bonus from the next character you choose as well. And this will apply to the whole synthesis, not just their own trait, right? So it increases the chances for the entire synthesis. Anyways, we are pretty sure that's how it works. We are sort of sure that's how it works. Not pretty sure. No one really knows. There could be some caveats there, but I really want to drive this point home is that the main thing you should be taking away from this is that the gift bonus is minor. It is minor. It is not a huge boost. So while it does have an effect, it's not anything worth stressing out over, okay? So, you know, get what amounts of it you can and don't worry about it otherwise, right? Like, I really, really want to stress that. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about it, but it's not going to drastically change your odds compared to just selecting the right traits, right? Synthesizing with the right traits will always be better than chasing bonus, period. There is one last thing about it, I think. One sec, let me collect my thoughts. Crap. I totally forgot what I was going to talk about next. There was something pretty important, though. And I can't remember. Good job, me. That's not good. Well, whatever. I'm sure it will be fine. I think that's almost everything that you should know about synthesis. Just making sure you pick the right traits, really important. Gift bonus, good to go for, but not like so valuable that you need to chase it. The support characters don't do anything. And yeah, that's probably about it. The next video, I'm going to talk about items, which items you should be selecting for characters so that you know like what to make, right? My general advice is make what you have materials for, but now that we have events, you know, there's a lot of very cheap items we have access to now, so. Next tutorial will be a little advice on that. And then I think we will get into stats. I will explain, you know, a lot of stats, how things stack, how buffs work, debuffs work in battle, everything like that. Should be a good time, so look forward to those. And if you had any questions, once again, when I'm done with the series, I will make an FAQ video with your questions from YouTube and answer a lot of the things that I think I haven't answered already. So leave a question down in the comments below if you have anything like that. And I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.